Hello and welcome back to the Eyes of Ode Gaming channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today I have another older game in my What Is It and Is It Worth It game review series. In this video I will go through the various aspects of the game, trying my best to avoid spoilers for new players, and give examples of similar games as well as my personal opinion as to whether I would recommend the game with a thumbs up or thumbs down, and if I personally enjoyed it. I won't be giving a number rating to the game as many other channels do, as I find this to be a very arbitrary way of rating games, which like any other entertainment is completely subjective, and instead I prefer to give enough info for you to make a decision on your own if you would like to go forward with picking up this title for yourself. In this review we're traveling to the dead of space for our look at Dead Space 2. Dead Space 2 is billed as a sci-fi survival horror game and was developed by Visceral Games and published by EA. It was released back in 2011, so it's about 9 years old now. So let's take a look at Dead Space 2, see what it's all about, and if it's held up over the years and is still worth picking up for a first-time player now. So what exactly is Dead Space 2? Well, if you played Dead Space 1, you're probably very familiar with the setting of the game itself, as it will play out very similar to the first one in the series. If you haven't played Dead Space 1, I will highly recommend that you do. The story takes place after the first one, and I would think that if you're a first-time player coming into it with Dead Space 2, you might be a little lost and could miss some of the references the game makes to the first one. If you're a fan of this type of game, Dead Space 1 is also very comparable in every way to Dead Space 2, so if this looks like something that you'd be interested in, I really don't think you'd be disappointed to start there. So, as mentioned, Dead Space 2 is a sci-fi horror game. This is where you will take control of engineer Isaac Clarke, and you spend the game fighting supernatural abominations which wouldn't look out of place in a Silent Hill nightmare, all while aboard space stations and spaceships and different sci-fi oriented environments. As you progress, you will need to loot ammunition for weapons as well as schematics along the way. The schematics are then turned in at stores where you can purchase new weapon and armor upgrades. A nice feature of the game is the objective marker, which you can use to point yourself in the right direction if you get lost while exploring. This game really does pay off to go off the beaten path a bit, so you may need to rely on this to get reoriented at some points. The graphics are still quite good. They look nearly identical to Dead Space 1, maybe touched up a little bit and smoother overall, but both games are still quite passable today. The inventory management screen is quite straightforward without any confusing menus. Upgrading is done by finding or purchasing power nodes, which are then used on weapons and armor to gain unique traits or upgrade the effectiveness of the item. It is impossible to accurately review this game without comparing to Dead Space 1. Story-wise, I found this go-around to be interesting, but lacks some of the charm from the original. Possibly it is because in the first game everything is new, whereas in the sequel you are well acquainted with the marker and the monstrosities which you will be fighting. Very little is done to flesh out Isaac's character or background, and I felt that if you had not played the first game it might be difficult to connect with the character and his personal struggles. The combat is good, but felt more like a shooter than a horror from the original. I think this is due mainly to the environment, as in the original game everything was a lot more claustrophobic. This time Isaac is a veteran at combat, and the intense anxiety-filled scrambles seem to be replaced with a Doom Guy attitude toward the hellish mutants you're destroying. Although the game is more open than the first, and this does take away from some of the horror element, I did find that I preferred the environments over the original game. Everything has more color, even though it maintains the dark aesthetic, and locations seem to pop more. I was really happy that they didn't do much to change the way the weapons or user interface handles, as those who played the original will feel right at home without the learning curve of picking up a new title. So what games would I compare Dead Space 2 with? Well, obviously Dead Space 1. This one takes up where the last one left off and definitely feels like a continuation of that game. Other than that, I did feel some strong comparison to the Doom series, especially the older Doom 3 game, And another strong comparison with the game Prey. Aside from those games, the enemies do have a striking resemblance to enemies from games like Silent Hill, though your method of combat is in a huge contrast to those games, as well as the environments and locations that you will be fighting in. So would I recommend Dead Space 2 to pick up for new players?
The word is yes, Carl.
Yes, definitely, though I still strongly urge you to consider playing Dead Space 1 first. I really feel like the game does not explain itself if you were to start with this one, which as a Dead Space 1 player, I actually really enjoyed the throwbacks that they do, but I can imagine that it would be off-putting had you not played the original. If you're looking for a horror sci-fi, this is a great series to get into. The story is interesting, the combat is tense and fun, and the difficulty is not too extreme, but also a fun challenge. The environments are unique, and the aesthetic really pulls the game together in the dark sci-fi setting that they're going for. I hope that you liked this look at Dead Space 2, as I had a lot of fun playing the game and making the review for it. If you did, or if it helped you to decide if you were going to go ahead with picking up this game or not, please consider giving me a like on the video. Also consider subscribing to the channel. I upload a variety of gaming content, including reviews, walkthroughs, and Let's Play, and I really appreciate your support as it inspires me to continue creating. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching today, and until next time, take care.